from Sana. Richard Hanbury, the founder and CEO of Sana Healthcare, is one of those folks who's really over the course of a lifetime, the better part of his lifetime, more than half his life now, not only struggled with a number of neurological components of his rehab from paralysis, but also is now reinventing how digital health is working to help patients around the world for a number of different indications. And again, we've been studying Sana now for a few years and have seen in our own data evidence that's pointing toward an extraordinary story. But we're really at this point wanting to talk about Sana as a diagnostics device for this symposium. And so, Richard, if you could just, for folks that don't know you, and again for our audience, if you don't know Richard, again we'll pop his LinkedIn into the chat box, and we'd highly recommend you go to his YouTube page and just look at all the different testimonials of people who have used it, of how to use it, et cetera. It's an extraordinary device. But Richard, if you could just give 30 to 60 seconds about yourself and a little bit about Sana and how it came to be.
Certainly. Thank you, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. Yes, so company name Sana because age 19, I was near the capital of the Yemen, Sana'a, had to drive a Jeep off a bridge to avoid a head-on collision next to a petrol truck, 60 foot down, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, aortic tear, and all of that resulted in a nerve pain problem that was so severe I was given a 5-year life expectancy. So looked in hospital as they started to give me meditation. Meditation is a really bad idea if you're already in constant chronic pain and chronic anxiety, because it just makes you more aware of how much pain or anxiety you're in. Watched the movie. The movie changed my state of consciousness, which then got me looking at meditation and state of consciousness. And then I was looking for an external way of changing states of consciousness in order to alleviate my own pain. That ended up with this device, which is an audio-visual neuromodulation device. So it uses, the user puts it on, turns on. It's using pulsed light and pulsed sound to generate very specific frequency patterns in the brain. And then that is then generating anxiety relief on demand that then has impact across every area of mental health and every area of pain where anxiety is a component. Currently going through two pivotals started, and in addition, a 1,000 arm person study started. So 2 of those in fibromyalgia, 1 in neuropathic pain. Anxiety is next up on pivotals, and PTSD we just got a DoD grant for, and that's starting shortly as well. So that's the short version, hopefully.
No, I think again, that's one of the hallmarks of the symposium is we really like to get folks to get to the point and talk about what they're doing. So for sure, appreciate the short version. And if you could talk a little bit about some of the early data that you're seeing in clinical trials around Sana.
Certainly. So yeah, anxiety reduction is nearly always the largest point, and that's true across every study we've done, from opioid use disorder through to the pain studies, and also PTSD. It is the latest data we have from our one-arm study, comparing that against there are only 3 available drugs within fibromyalgia, Lyrica, Cymbalta, and Savella. Of those, only Lyrica is sold in any great quantity. Like is true with many of the neuropsychiatric drugs, they are helping a portion of people for a portion of time. So whereas Lyrica is basically 2 years after being given it, only being used by 10-20% of people who are first prescribed it, we are at the 80% mark of people still using the device that was after 2 years, and equivalent benefits without any of the side effects of the neuropharmaceutical approaches. So definitely a case study in how things can be done in the solution toolkit, where drugs are not providing the total solution, that are only helping people in certain circumstances.
Okay, and I think when you see that, then tell us. Now you're in the midst of a fundraising stage. Tell our community a little bit about where you are in the fundraising stage and what environment you're seeing there.
Yeah, certainly. So we are in the middle of a bridge node, a safe node. We've filled it. We've half filled it with insider investors from Founders Fund, Noetic, and AARP. We've got half of it still open. We've got 5 million still open on the safe node. We've done a lot. We've had a lot of interest recently from psychedelic investors because they seem to really understand the problems with the neuropsychiatric drug space, and also realize how long psychedelics are going to take to come to market. And it's kind of like if you think about all of the digital health that are providing services over an app, they're going to be able to reach a very large number of people at a relatively early stage and an early level. And all of those people are going to be identifying who needs the extra help. Within the market as well, there is a reduction in available psychologists and psychiatrists because of increased attrition because of COVID. And so we're filling that gap in between. What do you do when an app alone isn't enough and there are not psychologists and psychiatrists available? So we're that next tier down.
And that is making a lot of sense, and that makes what we're seeing in the funding environment certainly does resonate. And we've got some questions coming in from the audience, but can you also comment a little bit about the data that you're seeing from the Mighty study and how you're seeing Sana compare to Lyrica?
Yeah, so the Mighty study data is coming through really well. Overall, we're seeing 4 times as number of people helped as are helped by Lyrica, 4 times as long, with roughly the same level of benefit in improvements of quality of life, reductions of pain, but with no side effects. Hence why we're helping 4 times as many people, because everyone tolerates this device. We only got about 20% of people who we can't impact, and we're working on why that is. But yes, the earlier data is showing that we are basically helping 80% of people, and we're helping them at least as much as a drug without any of the side effects.
Which is amazing, because so effectively what you're saying is after 2 years of use, people are still using Sana, and after 2 years of use, people are only 10 or 20% of people are still using Lyrica.
Correct. That's after the smaller numbers that tolerate Lyrica, even in the first month.
Okay, so for the audience here, if you're a physician, you're a patient, if you're a digital health startup, if you're an investor, please take note. That's extraordinary, because everyone knows about medication persistence and medication use over periods of time. Everyone knows that biologic medications tend to go down to about 50% persistence and adherence after about 6 months. And we also know that biologics, if we just look at the vaccine resistance recently, we know that biologics are still not largely, there's some population, some percent of the populations are still not trusting biologics. So let's listen to this data point very carefully. 80% usage of a digital health device, right, after 2 years. Truly extraordinary. We do have some questions from the audience that we do want to get to. One, again, coming from Vipula, they want to know what is the scale you're using to measure pain. There's a number of different pain scales out there for use. It's obviously very subjective. What are you guys using in 10 seconds or less?
SF36, PEG, and brief pain index are the 3 we usually default to. Okay.
And again, Andrea Timberlake wants to know that how to work with you. They're working with psychologists again. Richard or Jerry, if you could pop email address or something, LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is already in there, but Andrea, please do get in touch with Richard about that as well. And then we're seeing another question come from Andrea about the Sana device versus anti-anxiety medications taken with and without gabapentin. What are you seeing there?
Xanax is one of the things that people drop on their own, even including during clinical trials when we tell them not to. We usually try and keep people stable meds during the trials, but it's one of the least favorite drugs. So it's the side effects are enough that people want to drop it. So as soon as they can, as soon as there is an option, it's one of the ones we're seeing drop. We do play nicely. No drug stops the device working. with the exception of sleep aids. So Ambien, because it disrupts slow wave sleep, is one of the ones that stops the device working. So we can be used in conjunction with every device. And then what we see is people lowering their meds once they're using the device, once they're getting other help from a device. Then we see them dropping meds across the board, around about 30%.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So again, Richard, terrific work. We know how many crazy hours you put into this, and the passion that you have for it is truly inspirational. Thank you for showing up today. We know how busy you are as well. Thank you for everything that you've done for the digital health community.
I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.